Hello everyone, and this is my review for TNA Impact Wrestling on March 21st, 2013. I'm going to go ahead and start this show with this review with the only thing that I felt was like a disappointment, though it had a good little portion about it, at least in terms of storyline, and that was the Matt Morgan Joseph Park match. Honestly, it was just a squash match in general. It wasn't really entertaining at all, but in the terms of storyline, I felt that it at least comes off really good, showing Matt Morgan continuing on with what he said the week before, trying to eliminate all of Hulk Hogan's mistakes one at a time, or at least mistakes he feels that Hulk Hogan had made since being general manager, and starting with Joseph Park. So at least there was a little bit of good out of it, though match itself wasn't all that great. Next I'll go with the X Division title match, which was Kenny King, Zema Ion, and Sanjay Dutt. Honestly, a fun match in general. Great spots, great in-ring action. Just overall fun match to watch. It's interesting to see that they're implicating something new with the X Division, with the whole that all title matches will be triple threat, and the person who gets pinned is out of the title picture, and then the person who doesn't necessarily get pinned is in. That remains in the matches in general. And honestly, in my own personal opinion, I feel that this kind of just makes it more, the division just more of a gimmick division at that point. They're not really trying to build any kind of story on there. They're just really out there to put on some fun matches, maybe even some really good spot fest. But all in all, I hopefully don't see this lasting for too terribly long, maybe 2 months or so. And in general, I think the matches that we'll see with the triple threat matches there will be extremely good and fun to watch. But I've always been one that likes seeing more of the storyline get built out of it versus just matches in general. So hopefully it doesn't last for too terribly long, so they can build some kind of storyline around the X Division instead of just making it like a gimmick title or a gimmick division altogether in that sense of the word. Next up, I'll basically talk about which was the Tara Terrell Gail Kim storyline, which was a continuation from what happened from Lockdown and last week's Impact. They basically went with the route of I forget what the name of the referee was that they did this with before, but they had done a storyline similar to this where they fire the referee and now he comes in as a wrestler. That's basically what they did with Tara Terrell. Now she's a TNA knockout. Now she can go after Gail Kim and all that sense. And honestly, the entire promo came off. It came off relatively well considering everything, and it should be a nice little fun knockout storyline to see. Especially, it's nice to see that they're doing something that storyline that doesn't necessarily need to involve the Knockouts title. So we'll see how they go with this, and hopefully it'll be fairly entertaining. Next up, I'll talk about the Chavo Guerrero Hernandez and Austin Aries Bobby Roode match, which was for the tag team titles. Honestly, again, obviously it's supposed to happen last week, but then the whole Aces and Eights deal happened. But this week the match actually happened, and again they put on a really good match between the two of them. Again, great in-ring action between the two teams. Just overall fun match. You've seen and known the storyline that they had through the past couple months, and it was really fun to basically. I would think probably be the feud ender, of course, with Austin Aries and Bobby Roode keeping the tag team titles, and they'll move on to another tag team, or they'll start moving on to try and collect the other title belts in some way, shape, or form at that point, like they were basically saying initially when they got the tag team titles. So we'll see where they go along with that, or see what team they're going to be going up against next. The AJ Styles quote-unquote interview, which basically got interrupted by Taz and James Storm. AJ, of course, not saying a word throughout the entire thing. I'm actually somewhat interested where they're going with this, the quote-unquote new AJ Styles, where he's kind of doing his own thing. He's not necessarily aligning himself with anyone. He's attacking old friends who's always had his back. He's, of course, attacking past enemies, all that kind of stuff. And, of course, this week when they were trying to get answers, he doesn't say a word and he kind of just walks out. Well, basically he's saying, you know, he's going to say what he wants to say on his own time, not on anyone else's time. He's doing his own thing type deal. And honestly, it makes it to seem a little bit more interesting. I would like to see where they're going with it, go with that storyline. Will he basically just come out the next week and say something, or will he continue this silence until he decides to whenever speak type deal? So we'll see where they actually go with that. Probably the most interesting or the most entertaining promos and segments of the show was the Bully Ray talking about the whole plan about Aces and Eights. You had about 4 or 5 different promos telling the entire story over the 9 months of the building up of Aces and Eights and how they started, how they got all the members, how Bully Ray was trying to earn Hulk Hogan's trust, all that leading into what happened with Lockdown, leading with him finally, you know, revealing himself as the leader of Aces and Eights. And honestly, I thought they were great promos. Bully Ray's great on the mic and can deliver a promo probably with some of the best in any of the industry at this point in time. So honestly, I thought it was just great to see. You didn't really have much involvement with Aces and Eights outside of those vignettes. Matter of fact, they didn't do any run-ins, any of that aspect. So it was nice that they kept the presence of Aces and Eights in there and showed that entire plan go through that whole 9 months. It will pretty much just build to whatever end story they're going with here. In some way, shape, or form. And honestly, again, you also had a good backstage promo with Hogan and Sting about you know, Hogan still being angry at Sting, all that kind of stuff as well. So all in all, that came off as just really good in the terms of like backstage segments or promos in general. So that leads to the main event of the night, which was made at the beginning of the show, which was a fatal 4-way match for the #1 contendership for to see who would face Bully Ray next. Honestly, the match itself was a fun match to watch, but honestly, I don't think they really needed to do that. You pretty much had a good clue that Jeff Hardy was going to be the next one in line, because they could have just played the whole rematch clause type deal, but they didn't go that route. They went with that #1 contendership match. And like I said before, a fun match. Good spots again. Like most of the matches that you see on Impact Wrestling, they do well with their spots. They do well with the in-ring action in general. So honestly, the match was a lot of fun to watch. I just felt story-wise, you didn't really need it in any way, shape, or form. But in the end, you got a good match out of it. And of course, you know, Jeff Hardy wins. He's going to go on to face Bully Ray whenever that's going to be. Obviously, it won't be at the next pay-per-view because that's way too far down the road. And we'll see when that actually happens and see where they're going to go with it. Any potential building of any extra storyline going around it between Jeff Hardy and the Aces and Eights, or just Jeff Hardy teaming up with TNA and against Aces and Eights and all that kind of area. So overall, I felt the show was actually. It was actually a pretty good show. There was only the real one disappointment, which was the fact that the squash match with Matt Morgan and Joseph Park, but in the end, I mean, that kind of went well with the storyline with what they were going with at that point, so there was really no major disappointments to the show. So all in all, pretty good show this week. Yeah, that's my review for TNA Impact Wrestling this week. I thank you guys for watching, and I hope you enjoyed.